Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Lethal Weapon. A fantastic episode. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's kind of break it down. The biggest focus of this episode's effect is that Riggs has deep anger issues to the point he ends up, it was just a series of events, and obviously, like the deputy mayor dude didn't handle things properly well, and it was just a series of accidents on Riggs' part that kind of led to things playing out the way they did, and just the fact is Riggs already kind of a little unstable, and that guy going off on him, calling him a loser and an idiot, stuff like that, just kind of set Riggs off, which I love the entire time throughout the episode. It's like, do you think I'm more angry or less angry? You have Roger being like, are you kind of the same? He's like, what are you doing? It's like, what, you told me there was no wrong answers. I lied. Come on. He's like, talking about the old me would kind of flip out about this. Then to take the whole bar fight situation, and he's even asking that dude Carl, like, okay, do you think you just met me and everything, sure, but do you think I'm more angry or less angry? And one of the people is like, say less angry. And it's like, because Riggs kind of went a little crazy. I'm pretty sure just from the little bit of the fight we saw, Riggs pretty much took down everyone by himself pretty much, because Roger was pretty much getting choked out at one point by one of the guys. I think Riggs with his anger issues kind of tackle that. I also like that this is a Cahill episode too. Because it's like, it kind of all ties in with, like her trying to understand Riggs a little bit better. Because a big part of this episode was like her being kidnapped by one of her patients, Stanley, at the beginning of the episode. He ends up being killed. Another one of her patients is kind of mixed up in all of this. It's kind of an interesting thing that she kind of points out this episode. She was kind of like, the fact of the matter is, because for her, like, we get to see just how scared she is about this whole Riggs situation. Because she's like, she feels like she's failing her patients. And I love Riggs, Roger's like, try to say something to make her feel better. She's like, oh, you don't got to worry. He's like, Doc, come on, you're doing great. I mean, look at me. And just she looks up with that, like, scowl on her face. Like, really? You're trying to pretend like you're the poster boy of great mental health? I just love that look. But for her, it's later on, it's like, she felt like she was letting everyone down. It's like, oh, these patients, oh, they're not taking their meds. Oh, that's another thing that I missed. She just kind of felt like she was a failure. And then it just kind of made her kind of go look at her whole situation with Riggs. It's like, you're not getting better. The fact is you flew off the handle like that. It's like, I thought we were making progress, which they are. But it's even now she's bringing that on into question, because for her, it's like, one day his anger is going to kill him, and she's going to be left wondering why. Because she brings up the fact is that Riggs just enjoys that, being on the edge. Because when he was up there with that other dude, Jose, when he was on that the steel beam, she was like, the fact is you looked almost happy, because it's like, that's where you enjoy being, like, on that bound between life and death. Like, you like just kind of tiptoeing. That's where you feel the most comfortable in everything. And it's kind of interesting, because let's not forget, there was that moment a few episodes back, they were running to like chasing after a dude, and Riggs didn't want to take that jump because he's like, oh, I might die. That was the first time in the course of the series that he's ever been worried about, like, oh, I might die in this situation. And I think that's kind of interesting, because that's because he had he had Ben and Molly in his life, so it kind of made him look at things a little bit differently. But now he's off on his own, just because he wanted to get away from them, for the sake of, because his dad's in his life again. So that it was his way of protecting them, which we haven't seen them come up in the story yet, but I'm sure that's going to change eventually at some point. Because the sad thing is, the longer he stays away from them, the harder it's going to be to get back into in their lives again, because Molly's like, well, you up and left Ben's at that sensitive age. He already has this whole situation with Jake. You got close to him. I'm not about to let my son get his heart broken again, or her own heart broken again. So it might not be able to be easy to fix. And for Riggs, maybe he's okay with that, because maybe he feels like he doesn't deserve that happy, white picket fence, perfect life, kid, wife and everything. It's like, it was taken from him again before. He wasn't about to let that happen to him a second time, so. But it seems like we finally kind of understand a little bit more about that situation, of why Riggs is kind of pissed off so much in this episode. And it seems in particular is derived from his mom. It's like, cause we see it like he's flashing to it at the beginning of the episode. He's running, he's a teenager again, and he's running to his mom and he's yelling on her name. But now we later on get context to it. It's the whole, when we first got introduced to Riggs' dad this season, like in that flashback of them hunting. And it's like, oh, the fact of the matter is his mom was sick. And the fact is we find out that she killed herself. And in fact, Riggs actually found her after she shot herself. And that's not something easy to come back from. And that's what, like, as he talked about, like, Cahill was kind of passed out because she got super drunk and everything, because she was kind of dealing with everything, feeling like kind of a failure of a doctor and everything, which we all know that she's great at what she does. But for him, it's like the anger, the fact is that she left him behind, because that anger stems from the fact is that his mom left him. But at the same time, it's like, not only did she leave them, she left him with his dad, and his dad eventually became the monster that he is. And it's like, you know, on some level, you know, Riggs must resent his mom, because it's like, you left me with him. Because it seems like his dad wasn't always like that. Like, we're getting a bigger picture, and he's like, oh, she's gonna leave us. Like, it seemed like his dad was a good guy at one point in time, but maybe whereas Riggs, his whole situation, maybe it made him a little crazy, made him internalize a lot of stuff. Maybe Riggs' mom's death had that same effect on his dad. The reason why his dad became kind of the drunk that he was, it wasn't just that she died natural causes. It's like she killed herself, and he tried to put on a brave front, but it still affected him, you know. So whether that was, you know, it seems like that might have been a catalyst to kind of lead to everything. I mean, maybe this whole like situation he's currently in present day, maybe that wasn't what he was mixed up being back then, but maybe when he went to prison initially after being shot by Jake, then maybe that's what kind of eventually, while he was all mixed up in this, he found his way there. But then the way Riggs makes it sound like, it makes it seem like he was already in that world to begin with. So it's hard to say whether or not he was a good dad. Like, we've only seen him in the past in these few circumstances that aren't that all favorable level. The hunting aspects is kind of like, well, because I was interpreting that as like, oh, he was going to kill his wife as a mercy. I thought that's what that whole like thing was about, but it's like, no, it's about like preparing Riggs for the fact is that his mom was about to do that for, you know, herself. So maybe there was other contributing factors. Maybe it was Riggs' dad too. Maybe it is 100% the cancer she was going through, but that's pretty heavy. And it's just, you know, he's been internalizing that the entire time. So that's where a lot of that anger comes from. So it was kind of interesting too, because this episode also brought Gina back, and basically she gave Cahill ultimatum. It's like, either you say that Riggs isn't cleared for duty and we kick him out, or you do say that he is ready for duty, but all his actions fall back on you, that you become solely responsible for him at this point in time because you're sticking your neck out for him, which is a very messed up ultimatum, because it's like, this job is kind of the only thing keeping Riggs stable, is I'm sure is one way of Cahill looking at it. Like, the fact is, this police department, the Murtaughs, they're the only family, they're the only people he has left in this world. And if he doesn't have this support group, he will fall apart. I mean, he's barely hanging on as it is, with everything that's coming up. I mean, I'm sure that's what, like, 'cause for Riggs, I believe strongly, and I think you know, that's why Cahill thought so. It's like, he was getting better. Yeah, he still had his issues, but he was getting better. It's just the fact is that his dad coming back into his life has stirred up a lot of stuff that he probably rather have forgotten. But the fact of the matter is, it's just, that's the thing. Like, if you don't deal with something, it will come back in some shape or form, whether you want it to or not. And this is just it's just the ramifications of him just probably like never really dealing with it. And, you know, you can only run so far before your past catches up with you, you know, so. But obviously that's the more serious side of things, but there was like a lot of fun mixed into this episode too, with the fact of the matter is just the conversations. Like Avery having to be like, oh my God, I thought I was having a good day till I saw this video. I was even whistling. And Riggs is almost like, that's kind of your fault, all right? Now you kind of have no choice because you put your day at such a high level, like, oh, I'm having a good day. Now you have nowhere to go but down. And he's like, well, yeah, you're right. It kind of was Avery's fault for being positive. I love that. And then the whole like faking everything, like, okay, we're going to get Riggs locked up so he can, you know, spy on Dr. Samuels at, you know, that psychiatric facility. And it's like, oh, starting a fake argument. And then Riggs punches, and then Avery dodges it, and Roger gets punched in the face, and just like, oh, and Avery's like, oh wow, I'm sorry, I acted on instinct, I've got pretty good reflexes, huh? It's like, wow, that was pretty smooth. And then at the moment, Gina and Cahill walked in, and it's like, that she was just talking about signing the papers and how she had 100% faith in you and everything, and it's like, and Riggs is like, well, come on, which they explained the situation, but it was almost like a very sad thing when Cahill's like, okay, yeah, she's like, when they went into that place, she had a bad feeling because she's like, next time we might, like, because she's afraid that next time a situation like this comes about, like them, you know, going into a facility like that, it's because it will be for real, not just for some undercover operation. It's like, no, that they'll really have to be locking Riggs up. So I did like they try to make things even, and it ended up with Roger punching Avery in the face. It's just like, even with Rick's situation, I do love the fact of the matter is that they do still, like, no matter what their problems are with Riggs, they do recognize him as a good cop. And he, like I said, this whole family dynamic of like, oh, there is good that comes from this, you know? So I do appreciate that. I also love the fact of the matter is, Scorsese still won't give up on the whole, Bailey situation. It's like, oh my God, look what I got here. And then Bowman's trying to get something. He's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, can I get this? Like, just get out. It did seem like obviously once again the commercial breaks. I loved it because she's hiding out down below, like in the morgue. He's just like, no, Gina's asking me to look into like these reports on Riggs about like how much damage he's caused. I think it was specifically like car related stuff, and it's like, holy crap, that's a lot of money you stacked up. And it's, you know, I think eventually it happens little by little as the series progresses, but like Scorsese is slowly but surely wearing Bailey down, so that's going to, I think, be a thing eventually. So it's kind of interesting too because this all kind of ties in a little bit with the episode too, because on the other side of it, which deals with the Murtaughs, because RJ's like floating in the pool like consistently, and like Trisha's like, I'm worried he's depressed, and so they end up getting him to see a therapist who I cannot remember the actress's name, but it's always it's fascinating because it's like one, like, you know, thing I know her best from is In Living Color, which, you know, Damon, as well as, you know, the rest of the Wayans were like a big part of that show. So it's just kind of interesting. It's like, holy crap, they're crossing paths like that again. Because she's been in other stuff too. I think there was like an episode of, no, maybe, I don't know. Like I was thinking of something. It's not important. It was just kind of interesting that they were together. I was like, oh yeah, there's a kind of a little bit of an In Living Color reunion in that shape, in that regard. And I thought, I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. But basically, the reason why RJ's a little is depressed is because he feels like Roger's like super disappointed in him for dropping out of college. And like, what? No, it's like, yeah, he overheard you talking to the mailman and you made up some excuse as why he's home. It's like, oh, he has some like rare disease. And Tristan's like, you lied and said something like that. It was like, well, dude, mailman dude, he runs his mouth a lot. He likes to gossip. And it's like, and he tries to throw it on Trish. It's like, well, she dropped RJ when he was a baby. And it's like, I tried to catch him, but then Trish was like, no, don't do that. Like, you know, almost like he kind of has to do it like, you know, oh, he'll go right to sleep or something like that. And you have Trish over there, almost like, you could almost tell she was like grinding her teeth, like, this SOB just said that. Okay, I got you, you know, and I love it. Because he was worried because he's like, oh, this is going to come back on me. It's like, oh, I didn't play. I wasn't there enough in RJ's life. I took this away from him. He thought like the therapist was going to turn it all against him and make it all his fault. But he ends up sharing with RJ that the fact of the matter is, like, because RJ's got in his mind, like, oh, you've got it all figured out. You got mom, you've got your job, you got this house, you ain't got to worry about that, which for one is like, that's stupid. Every adult, no matter what, no one is 100% not worried all the time. Like, because you never know what life will throw your way. And even Roger's like, I'm worried about you, I'm worried about your mom, worried about everything. I worry about my crazy ass partner at work. He's like, I'm worrying all the time, and sometimes I worried about the fact is I'm not worrying enough. And it's just like, even the episode ends with him being like, and Trish's like, oh, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm worried. And it's just like, oh boy, it's like RJ's feeling better, but now we've set Roger off. So, but I do appreciate the fact is that when it was all said and done, Riggs is telling Cahill that, you know, to make her realize, like, you are important to me, because it's like, you may not realize it, but you are very good at your job, that anytime I'm close to the edge, to the abyss, you're the one that kind of keeps me from falling over. And he's sitting on top of that beam and everything, just drinking. And it's just like, dude, it's just like I said, it's like every time you think like there's one step forward for Riggs, he takes like 2 steps back, which is just like, there's just so much obviously stuff about Miranda. He found out about her knowing the truth about his old dad situation. The fact that they lied about it, but she never said anything about it. Dealing with that. Like I said, also this whole situation with his dad is just bringing up a lot of nasty memories, which, you know, that whole situation, he's not the most comfortable talking about himself. But like I said, it was right when he said in this episode that he is taking baby steps. But, you know, like I said, Cahill was so worried at the time about her. You know, it's like, am I really doing a job? Am I really making, because even, you know, it's not even like a worried about her job. It's like, no, I'm worried about these people, like, I'm supposed to be helping. Like, am I really doing a good job helping you, Riggs? And it's like, she felt like she wasn't. But like I said, we know that she's a BAMF and she's doing the best she can. It's just a very complex situation, you know? It is interesting too because that whole deputy mayor situation never got 100% settled. They never were like, oh yeah, it was. It's like no, maybe that's something we deal with going forward. Probably not. Just probably like this was this episode thing. So I am curious to see what will happen going forward because Riggs is going to be more of Cahill's problems. I don't know if that's going to necessarily play into the show or not. But the fact is, it makes you wonder: would Riggs act differently if he knew that was a case that like Cahill's future depended on him? To be fair, he tried to pretend the end of the episode like, oh my god, like I don't have any anger. Look at me, cool, calm. Look at me, less angry. So I've been like that dude, Carl. His like, oh, you're a guy have a better alibi than you were watching The Price is Right. He's like, no, I was on it, and having that whole conversation, and like, he's like, oh, I bet $1. Like, why would you guess $1? It's like, I don't want to. Yeah, he's like, I would have won it. I was about right and everything. So I love that. Like I said, overall, fantastic episode. I'm very excited to see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good